Good afternoon, all of you. So today we are going to start a new session, uh, Edexcel, grade 9 actually. We are following the Exploring Science. I hope that you all are following this particular book set. Actually, uh, these are the books I guess that you are doing. This is the workbook and this is the course book, right? Um, so I need to talk to the parents as well. Actually, we are just using the book as a guide. Other than that, we have to follow the scheme of work because there are certain specifications mentioned in it. Therefore, we have to follow these. Uh, then we can have our own content, right? Keeping these specifications as a guide, we will follow our own content, right? So we will be discussing, you will receive course materials from next week onwards. Therefore, we can just discuss certain topics related to your lessons today. Actually, you will receive the recordings through Guru Nivasa LMS and you will be able to watch the previous recordings as well, right? So here, if I give a brief introduction about myself, I am Utpala Vijayadasa. I have completed my first degree in biological science at University of Kelaniya, and in order to be professionally qualified as a teacher, I have completed postgraduate diploma in education, and also I have successfully completed the Master of Education as well, right? So I have started my teaching career in year 2010 at Royal College Colombo 7, and I have been there till March 2024, right? So during this period, I have gained a lot of experience as a teacher, and that is related to the local curriculum. And even before that, I have conducted private tuition classes in Cambridge and Edexcel curricula. Uh, Therefore, I'm here to guide you all. Actually, we will discuss the things in the question and answer format, and you will be given topics in order to do presentations within the class, right? I will assign a particular student with a particular topic, so you have to prepare a presentation and do the presentation on the coming day. Then you can ask questions. You have to ask questions from the audience as well, right? So you will become much more familiar with the subject content. We will have to do a speedy revision because we know that you have started in your schools, you have started the lessons uh, in September, and since this is January, you have completed one semester there. Therefore, not a semester, actually, you have finished one term there. So we will have to do a speedy revision for you to face the final exam, right? Next July, right? Okay. So today we will discuss about certain topics and we will summarize the facts, right? So if you have any question, you can ask. Um, so if we start from the topic reproduction. So what is the requirement of the reproductive process, right? So all plants, animals, even the microorganisms show certain reproductive methods. Actually, the requirement of reproduction is to continue the species, right? The number of individuals is being increased. The existing generation produces a new generation. Now, if we consider uh, a plant, we'll say, so if there is a mango plant, it produces fruits, and inside the fruit, there is a seed. This seed will germinate and produce a new plant, right? This will germinate and it will produce a new plant. right? It will develop into a mature tree one day, and once again it will produce fruits, and the same cycle is repeated. Actually, it is a something like a cyclic process. So this is essential for the continuation of a species. Essential for the continuation of a species, right? Okay. Then, if we talk about what is meant by a species, right? The individuals which have the ability to reproduce and produce a second generation, produce a generation which has the ability to reproduce once again. We call them as fertile organisms, right? So, fertile organisms are produced uh, by the individuals due to the interbreeding of the individuals of a particular species, right? So, this ensures the continuation of that particular species, as well as the survival of that uh, species in the environment is assured because of the reproductive process. Then, you know, this reproductive process can be divided into two categories, right? Reproductive process can be divided into two categories. That is, one is sexual reproduction, and the other method is asexual reproduction, or in the case of plants we call it as vegetative propagation, right? So in the case of sexual reproduction, there are, in the evolutionary advanced organisms, there are both male and female organisms, so they produce gametes, right? So in the case of male gametes, in animals, the male gametes are known as sperms. In plants, the male gametes are known as pollen, right? Then the female gametes, this is about sexual reproduction, right? The formation of gametes take place during sexual reproduction. Then the female gametes. In the case of animals, the female gametes are known as ova, singular, that is ovum, right? Ova, or we call them as eggs as well. In the case of plants, the female gametes are known as ovules. So, production of gametes take place during sexual reproduction, and these gametes will fuse together. We call this as fusion, fusion of gametes, right? Then these gametes will fuse and form the zygote. These gametes will fuse together and form a single cell, which is known as the zygote, right? So the in the zygote, the cells will divide. The single cell will divide by a number of cell divisions, right? Number of cell divisions, and they will produce a multicellular organism. Now, in the case of us, in our bodies, there are several millions of cells, right? There are several millions of cells, right? That is because of the division of cells in this single cell, what we call as the zygote. Division of cells in this single cell, which we call as the zygote, right? Then this will develop into this will pass a fetal stage, then embryonic period, fetal stage, and it will be born as an infant. Then the infant develops into an adult. So continuous cell division take place. So actually, here the cell division taking place is known as what? Yes, that is known as mitotic cell divisions. Mitotic cell divisions take place here, right? In the formation of gametes, we will discuss this in later. We will discuss this in detail. in the formation of gametes, this cell division takes place is known as meiosis, right? Due to meiotic cell divisions, the gametes are formed. Then the gametes will fuse together and form the zygote. Then the zygote undergoes mitotic cell divisions in order to form a multicellular organism, right? That is what is happening during the sexual reproduction, either in plants or animals, right? So, if there is no reproductive process, we have to consider that particular species as an extincted species. There are certain reasons for extinction. Actually, not it is not the reason not doing reproduction, but there are some other reasons, because the animals, or the not only the animals, the organisms should be adapted to the prevailing environmental conditions, right? They have to be adapted. The environmental conditions are continuously changing, so the organisms should have to be adapted to the prevailing conditions. Otherwise, they will be extincted. Now, there are certain animals and plants that have been extincted, as well as some have faced the threat of extinction. The reason is not having the certain adaptations. Actually, evolution, evolving means adapting, developing changes according to the changing environmental conditions. Then only the organism will be able to survive successfully in the environment. If we consider the example of giant panda, uh, it has only one type of food. It depends on only one type of food, since that it is green bamboo, you know. So since those plant population is reduced, it does not have enough food. Therefore, it has faced the threat of extinction. So that is a poor adaptation, no? Because it has not been adapted to have a variety of food habits, right? Variety of food items. It does not depend on a variety of food items. It depends on only one type of food, right? Therefore, it has faced the threat of extinction. So, here we mentioned certain words, reproduction, then evolutionary process, then the extinction, the extincted species, and what is meant by a species. So how the reproduction becomes important for the continuation of a species. It will prove the existence of a particular species in the natural environment, right? So if we consider the environment also, there are certain, and there are so many ecosystems, right? So in an ecosystem, there is both biotic and abiotic factor interacting with each other. Biotic means, you know, living, and abiotic means non-living. So in an ecosystem, there are both living and non-living organisms. Ecosystem, living and non-living things are interacting together, right? So we can identify different types of uh, ecosystems, right? Think of different types of ecosystems. So in an ecosystem, we find both biotic factor and the abiotic factor, biotic and the abiotic, right? We find both biotic factor and the abiotic factor, right? So hi, Hansa and Mehansa. Are, are they twins?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So what happened? Why did you get late?
We got a connection problem.
All right. So the classes started at 4 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, right. Can you turn on the video, please? Right. So if I mention about the things that we mentioned earlier, uh, you can just follow the recording for the previous part of the lesson. I will just summarize the things. So actually, I mentioned about the importance of reproductive process. There is, you are joining from another device, right? Um, the importance of reproductive process, what is meant by reproduction, right? What is meant by reproduction, the importance of it, uh, what is meant by extinction, the evolutionary process. Actually, I mentioned about these earlier. And then, what do you mean by evolution? Can you just tell me? What do you mean by the evolutionary process? Do you have any idea? Yes. Do you have any idea about evolution? What do you mean by the evolutionary process? Yes. So the as I told earlier, the organisms have to change according to the existing environmental conditions. From where have you joined? Please, Yelinsa and Mehansa. Sorry, Yehansa and Mehansa. Yes. Where are you from?
We live in Korea.
Ah, right. Okay. So, did you move there recently?
Mm, yeah, about
Okay.
a year ago.
Right. Okay, good. So, yeah, there are also, we can talk about the term adaptation. Now, you have moved to a new country. So, you have the environmental conditions, the social conditions are totally different there, right? So, there you have to get adapted to that condition, to that environment. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to survive in that environment, right? It would be difficult for you to survive in that particular environment, right? Okay. So first of all, I will share a video for you to get an idea about the reproductive process as well as the extinction. What is meant by extinction, evolution, right? Okay, I will share that video and I will discuss later on.
Evolution. In biology, the theory of evolution doesn't tell us exactly how life began on Earth, but it helps us understand how life, once it came into existence, diversified into the many incredible forms we see now and in the fossil record. It also helps us make sense of the way in which modern creatures continue to adapt and change today. In biology, evolution can be defined as any change in the heritable traits, those are physical traits like fur color in mice, spots on the wings of butterflies, or instinctive behaviors like the way that dogs greet their friends with a sniff, within a population across generations. This definition can be a bit confusing, so let's see how it works.
Can you hear?
All healthy living things
Yes, can you hear?
Yes, teacher.
Okay.
from single-celled amoebas to flowers to dolphins are capable of reproduction. We have children, we make copies of ourselves. We do this by duplicating our DNA and passing that DNA on to future generations. DNA is a chain-like chemical stored inside each one of your cells, which tells them how to grow and function. Your DNA contains coded information on how to build you. The information in your DNA is different than that of, say, a daffodil's DNA, which is why you look and function differently than a daffodil. The information in your DNA is slightly different than that of Elvis Presley, which is one of many reasons you don't look or act quite like he did. Single-celled amoebas and other simple creatures reproduce by copying their DNA inside their guts, moving both copies to either side of their body, splitting in two right down the middle, and then growing back to full size. If all goes well, the two new amoebas will be exact copies of each other, but in nature, things aren't always perfect. When DNA is being copied, errors can occur which modify the DNA code. This is what we call a DNA mutation. These mutations can produce variation in the body shape and function of the creature who inherits the modified DNA. In this case, our new little friend has an arm that stretches extra long. If he survives long enough to grow and reproduce, that extra stretchy arm, which is now coded for in his DNA, will be passed on to his children. Evolution. Any change in the heritable traits within a population across generations has officially occurred. Reproduction for dolphins and badgers and people is a little more complicated. We have to find ourselves a partner. When two badgers get together and, fall in love, a sperm cell from the father, which contains a copy of half of his DNA, only half, combines with the egg cell of the mother, which contains half a copy of her DNA. The result.
So here I explained earlier the gamete formation. The formation of gametes take place during sexual reproduction, right? Then these gametes, the male gametes, in the case of animals, we call them as sperms. Actually, in plants, we call them as pollen, right? The male gametes in plants are known as pollen. Then the female gametes in animals, these are known as ova, right? Ova, the singular term is ovum, right? Then in the case of plants, these female gametes are known as ovules. So in sexual reproduction, gamete formation takes place. We call it as gametogenesis as well. Then in males, then after the production of these gametes will fuse together, right? The fusion of gametes takes place. Then due to the fusion of gametes, a single cell, which is known as the zygote, is formed, right? Zygote is a single cell. After that, this single cell undergoes number of mitotic cell divisions. The cell division method is known as mitosis. So it undergoes number of mitotic cell divisions, and after that that single cell is developed into a multicellular organism, right? Like us, in the case of our body, there are several millions of cells. So these are developed due to mitotic cell divisions, right? Hari. Okay, let's continue.
Result is a brand new cell with a complete set of DNA instructions, all the information needed to divide and grow up into a brand new badger. The new child matures to be similar to her parents, but also unique because she develops some traits from her mother's DNA and some from her father. Her new combination of traits can be passed on to her children, and again, evolution. Any change in the heritable traits within a population across generations has officially occurred. Besides a unique recombination of her parents' traits, she might also have developed some completely new traits of her own due to DNA mutations. Maybe extra hairy ears, for example. If she survives long enough to have kids, her DNA will combine with the DNA of her partner, and she'll pass on those extra hairy ears to at least some of her children. Again, evolution has officially occurred. So there you have it. Evolution is really pretty simple. Scientists and normal folks everywhere witness evolution happening all the time. Small changes like the ones we've seen here can add up over multiple generations to create dramatic changes. If you were to go back in time just a few thousand years, you'd find that all dogs, for example, originally evolved from an ancestral group of gray wolves. The evolution of those wolves from generation to generation was guided by humans. People were selecting wolves with the traits they liked, letting them breed, and then only keeping the puppies with the most desirable traits. As time went on, different breeders preferred dogs with different features, some selected for large size, some for small size, some for brains, others for brawn. Today, wolves have branched out into hundreds of breeds, very few of which look and behave much like their ancestors. A massive amount of observable evidence from many different fields such as genetics, chemistry, paleontology, and mathematics overwhelmingly suggests that just like all dogs share a common ancestor, all living things, me, you, pufferfish, banana trees, if you go back far enough, also share a common ancestor. We are literally related. We don't know what the first life form was or exactly how it came to be, but the simple process of reproduction with variation over billions of years looks to be responsible for all the diversity of life we see today. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, hold on here. Isn't evolution random?
මට ෆ්‍රයිඩේ බර්ත්ඩේ පාටි එකක් අලුත් ඇඳුමක්
Something functional like turn a wolf into an adorable mini poodle. Random evolution had to be carefully guided by an intelligent dog breeder. Researchers claim that all mammals evolved from an ancient shrew-like creature. But the difference between a shrew and an elephant is far greater than that of a wolf and a poodle. Who guided that process? Who was the breeder? In the mid-1800s, two men, Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace, independently discovered that a breeder is not necessarily needed. There is another force capable of guiding random evolution to produce order and complex function. They called it natural selection, which happens to be the entire topic of our next video. But before you move on, let's recap what we've learned so far. Biological evolution is any change in the heritable traits within a population across generations. All healthy living things can make copies of themselves, but they do so imperfectly. Small variations can add up over generations to create dramatic differences in the body form and function of living creatures. Evidence overwhelmingly suggests that all life on Earth is related. So remember, next time you invite family and friends over for a holiday feast, you're actually just inviting family. That includes the turkey and the pumpkin in the pumpkin pie. I'm John Perry, and that's evolution stated clearly.
Okay. Yes, Yehansa and Mehansa, can you just tell me, uh, is there any particular book that you follow there?
No, teacher.
Means you don't have the subject science, or what is it?
We don't follow like in Korean we follow science.
All right, you follow science in Korean language, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. So actually here we are following, as I stated earlier, here we are following the actually the exploring science, this particular book, and that book is used as a framework. Then we will discuss our own content, right, by using it as a particular guide. We are using that in order to discuss the topics that should be covered. Is it okay for you? Actually, based on the audience, based on the students that have joined, we have to decide it. That's why I'm asking. Is it okay for you?
Yes, teacher.
Right. Okay. Then actually from next week onwards, you will receive a particular tutorial. That means you can take a printout of this learning aid before joining the class, right? So I will share it in the LMS. Then you can have a printout of this in order to continue the lesson. Today I am just discussing about the about certain topics that we have to cover, and we will discuss the content in brief, right? That is the objective of today's class, since it is the first day, right? So I have discussed certain things, so you can follow them by using the recording, right? You can watch the recording. Okay. Hi. Right. So finally, I mentioned about an ecosystem. Can you define the term ecosystem in your own words? Yes. As you feel. It doesn't matter if it goes wrong. Yes. What do you mean by an ecosystem? Yes. No idea. Hmm? Yes. Now there are, we find that there are different types of environments. You know the word environment, right? There are different types of environments. Now, when we talk about a forest, that is a different ecosystem, right? When we talk about coastal area, beach, that is a different ecosystem. Then you have, you know about lagoons, the mangrove environments. These are different ecosystems. A desert is a different ecosystem. So in those we find both living organisms and the non-living component. Bio means living, no? Right? The living component and the non-living component, both of these are interacting together in an ecosystem, right? So what type of interactions are there? You can talk. You are free to talk. It doesn't matter that you go wrong. It's okay. Totally okay. Yes. What type of interactions are there? Yes. Hari, අපි මෙහෙම කියමු. I will say like this. There are plants, animals, and microorganisms. Plants, animals, and microorganisms as the biotic component, right? Living organisms, right? Then as the abiotic component, there is soil, water, air, right? Likewise, right? So what type of interactions are there in between these two categories? Yes. Yes, who is going to start? Yehansa or Mehansa? Yes. Which one is Ehansa? Okay. Yes, Ehansa, can you tell me one relationship in between those two categories? Yes.
Can you give example?
Yes, whatever you need, no, you can say. Now, you know the plants produce their own food, right? Plants produce their own food, right? For what?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
that, what do you call that process?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. So, what are the factors that they need for photosynthesis?
Air, water, and
Which
soil.
component in air? Which component in air is needed for photosynthesis? Yes. Which component in air is needed? That is carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide is needed for photosynthesis. Then that is a part of air. Then what else? They need
soil.
soil. Actually, they need water.
Water.
They can obtain water. Yes, from soil they can absorb water, right?
Yeah.
So these two are obtained by plants. Water and air are obtained by plants. So it is an interaction, no? The biotic factor and the abiotic factor interact, right? Then all these will die. These will die and the dead bodies will get decomposed and help the formation of soil, right? So once again another interaction. Okay. Then the plants, the big trees, they will absorb water, groundwater, and water gets evaporated. What do you call that process? The big trees, they absorb water from the soil, right? Water is absorbed from the soil and that water gets evaporated. Do you know what is the name given for this process? Yes? Something begins with T. Trans. Transpiration, right?
Yeah.
Transpiration. It seems that you have a problem since you learn with a different language. Sometimes you may have forgotten the terms, right? So I suggest, if you can, it's better to join. Now this is grade 9. Now you can join the grade 8 class as well. Once you are joining this one, it's better to join grade 8 session as well. Then you will be able to revise these things. Have you a plan to come again to Sri Lanka? Then that would be the best option. So you can join grade 8 session as well. Right? Hi. Okay. So now here, water is an abiotic factor. Abiotic factor. Then plant is a biotic component. Right? Plant is a biotic component. So the plant absorbs groundwater, then that is added to the atmosphere. So this will be helpful for the maintenance of the water cycle. This is helpful for the maintenance of water cycle. Likewise, in an ecosystem, we find a relationship in between the biotic and abiotic component. The living organisms interact with each other. Animals take plants as food, right? Animals find shelter inside or under the trees. They find habitats, right? Living relationships. Then I mentioned about living, non-living relationships. Then there are non-living relationships as well. Can you just give me an example for non-living relationship? Yes. Have you heard about soil formation? Right?
No.
Rock cycle.
Yeah.
They are actually because of the exposure to sunlight, flowing water, the weathering of rocks take place, and they help become helpful for the formation of soil, right? That is non-living, non-living relationship. Then the soil erosion takes place. The soil is washed away by flowing water. Then sometimes the fast blowing wind takes away the sand particles. So those are non-living relationships. Likewise, in a particular ecosystem, we find different types of relationships, right? So actually, you are here to learn science, right? Not only
Yeah.
biology, not
Yeah.
only biology, right? In grade 9, actually, it is science, is it?
Yeah. It
Yes.
is.
So we are supposed to learn all the 3 subject areas, biology, chemistry, and physics. Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Clear. Because based on the audience, we have to decide the content to be presented. No, sir, since we are starting the classes from January onwards. Right. So when you were at Sri Lanka, what was your school?
St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence means
The convent. The St. Lawrence convent.
right. Okay. So where did you live?
We lived in Brother.
Okay. Okay, well done. Right. Did you follow the local curriculum? Yeah, there you have the local curriculum, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. You can take down certain things, but from next week onwards, you will get a proper note, right? Proper
Yeah.
note. So today we will just summarize the things like this. Then, what do you know about matter? Yes. I will just write like this. The things around us, things in our surroundings. They can be divided into 2 main categories. Things around us. Yes, they can be divided into 2 main categories. What are they? What are the 2 categories?
Living things, non-living.
Okay, living things and non-living things. If you go beyond that, if you go to the beginning of the things around us, now think what are around you. You are making use of light. You are making use of electricity. And you are using a laptop, right? And you have books or materials, right? So accordingly, what are the 2 main things?
Gas.
Hmm. If I help you like this, now there are things that occupy space and having a mass. What do you call them?
Air.
AI is an example for that. There is a common name for that. Now your table, it occupies space. Even you occupy space. You have a mass, right? The chairs. So what do you call them? Yes. Those are known as something begins with M.
Matter.
Matter. Right? Things that are having a mass and occupying space. These are known as matter. Then, in addition to that, there are certain things that do not occupy space as well as they don't have a mass. What do you call them? Yes. Now, for example, you are making use of electricity. You are making use of light. So, what are they? And you can hear me. You are making use of something. What is that? Yes. Is it cold there? Is it cold?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is also because of because of something you are feeling cold there. Yes. I was to tell the word. Yes. It begins with E. Yes. That is energy. Energy. Light energy.
Light.
Light energy, electrical energy. You told that you are feeling cold. That is because of because of having less amount of heat energy, right? Energy, right? Matter and energy. Hari. Then you were trying to tell about the 3 states of matter. What are the 3 states of matter? Yes.
Solid, liquid, gas.
Good. Solid, liquid, and gas. These are the 3 states of matter. Solid, liquid, and gas. Solid, liquid, and gas. These are the 3 states of matter, right? Then, if we consider the basic unit of these 3 states of matter, what is it? What is the basic building unit of this matter? Yes. Yes, all these are made out of now you think of a large building which is made out of bricks. So what is the basic unit of that building? Huge building made out of bricks. So what is the smallest unit which has contributed for the formation of that building? Yes, I can't see answer. Harry. Yes. What is the smallest unit that has contributed? Now, when you are small, you are given building blocks, right? You just fix those building blocks and make somewhat big construction. So, what is the smallest unit you use there? Yes, a single. You are given this type of building blocks. You just fix those together and make a particular construction. So, what is the smallest unit that you have used there? A single building block, right?
Yeah.
In the case of the building that I mentioned, which is made out of bricks, what is the smallest unit used there?
Brick.
A single brick. Right. Likewise, I'm asking about matter. What is the smallest unit that has contributed for the formation of matter?
Atoms.
Atoms. Yes, atom. Good. Atom is the smallest unit which has contributed for the formation of matter. So what do you know about the atom? Is it okay if once I ask questions continuously? Since we need to have this like a discussion, I wanted a response from you. Is it okay? Right. Yes. What do you know about the atom? Yes. What is inside the atom? Yes.
Electron, protons.
Yes. One. You mentioned 2 of them. There is another one. Now, if I symbolize an atom like this, at the middle there is a nucleus, right?
Yeah.
This is known as the nucleus. So, inside the nucleus, what do you find? Yes, there are protons. You mentioned about protons. And there are
Electrons.
neutrons. Inside the nucleus, we find protons and neutrons. Right.
Yeah.
So, do you know the charge of these protons? Protons are positively charged, right? And the neutrons?
Yeah.
Neutrons?
Negatively.
No.
They are so positive.
They are neutral. They don't have a charge. Neutrons do not have a charge. right? Neutrons do not have a charge. Then you mentioned about electrons, right? The electrons are just revolving around the nucleus,
No.
right? So what is the charge of an electron? What is the charge of an electron? So protons are positively charged. Neutrons do not have a charge. Electrons,
Negative.
they are negatively charged. Electrons are negatively charged, right? So this is the structure of an atom. So protons and neutrons, these two are collectively known as nucleons, since they are available inside the nucleus. Nucleons. Harry, I will share a small video related to matter and the atom. If you want, you can take down the things.
Look around you. See the desk you're sitting at? The clothes you're wearing? The couch in your living room? The dog or cat that might be lying on that couch? And even that healthy snack you may be eating? Believe it or not, all of those things are made up of atoms. In fact, everything in the world that you can see, touch, and even things you can't, such as air, are made up of tiny building blocks called atoms. Without these atoms, you would not exist, and neither would the things around you. Atoms are so small you can't see them, unimaginably small. But you can see, breathe, and touch the things made from atoms. Atoms make up the cells that are part of everybody's body, and the particles that make up every solid, liquid, and gas in the world. So, if atoms are so small, how do we even know they exist? They're so small, you can't even see them with the highest powered microscopes. But we do know they're there. That's because more than 100 years ago, a scientist named Ernest Rutherford was able to bounce other small particles off of atoms and witness the interaction. It was kind of like you bounced a soccer ball off a tiny, tiny super ball. The way that super ball, or in Rutherford's case, atoms, acted, told him they existed and what they were made of. This history of how atoms were discovered is a lesson for another time, but scientists have proven the existence of atoms in many different ways over the last century. They're definitely there, and they're really cool. So, what is an atom made of, and how does it behave? It's hard to believe that inside every atom there are 3 even smaller particles. These particles are known as protons, neutrons, and electrons. The difference in the way these 3 particles exist within every atom and the way they interact with other atoms help determine what these atoms create. These atoms make up wood, or water, or metal, or anything. But we'll get to that shortly. First, let's talk about these 3 particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. A proton carries 1 unit of positive electric charge. An electron carries 1 unit of negative charge. And a neutron has no electric charge. Together, the protons and neutrons make up the nucleus of an atom or its center. and the electrons spin around the outside of the nucleus in what is called a shell. How do these super tiny atoms work, and what do they do? The different ways that atoms are organized determines what they are, or what elements they make up. Elements are the building blocks of molecules, and everything around us consists of molecules. All the elements are different, and there are 120 of them. These 120 elements are laid out here in the periodic table of elements. This chart is used by scientists, like physicists and chemists, to study how solids, gases, and liquids behave. It all depends on what they're made of. You'll probably spend a lot of time studying this chart later as you continue learning about science. This is the element oxygen. The number 8 means that the atoms that make up oxygen have 8 protons. This is helium, and its atoms have 2 protons. The number at the bottom tells us what the atomic weight of the element is. As you can see, there are 120 such elements on the periodic table, and each of those elements is made up of atoms. Think of it this way. Just as the letters in the word tell you what the word is, the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons that make up the atoms in an element tell you what the element is. And when atoms and elements are joined together, they make up molecules. Water, for example, is a molecule. Each water molecule is made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, and is sometimes referred to as H2O. It takes 2 atoms of 1 hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen to make water. As we said, atoms are super tiny, and therefore the molecules they create are also really, really small and can't be seen without a special microscope. Think about it. Can you see a single molecule of water? No way. Even the smallest drop of water is made up of many molecules, and within those molecules are even tinier atoms of hydrogen and oxygen. Some elements are actually made up of a single atom that doesn't attach itself to other atoms. The element of neon is one such example. It has just 1 atom. But other elements are made up of more than 1 atom, like oxygen, which usually consists of 2. It's referred to as O2. So, to sum up, try to think of all the things around us as a recipe of atoms. Atoms are incredibly tiny and consist of a certain number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Those atoms combine together to form elements such as oxygen, hydrogen, and aluminum. In turn, these elements form molecules that make up all the stuff around us, from metals to liquids to gases, from our clothing to our food to our furniture, even our own bodies. We are made up of billions and billions of atoms that form our skin, eyes, muscles, bones, and even our brains, which is hopefully where all this information about atoms will remain. Thanks for following Clarendon Learning. Be sure to subscribe.
Right. Okay. So it is clear about the structure of the atom, right? What is the relationship in between matter and the atom, right?
Teacher,
Yes.
are we learning combined science?
Combined science means, what do you mean? That means,
Like all like chemistry and biology and
yeah, that's what I asked from you. What is
Yeah.
your expectation?
I think I got it mixed up earlier. I think what we meant was like we only want to do biology.
You want to do biology only?
Yeah, I just I mixed it up earlier.
So if I repeat it, you want me to do the biology part only, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, okay. Okay, sure. That's what I asked earlier. That's why after asking that only, I just moved on to this concept, matter and atom. Okay, then I can continue with biological component, right?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I got it mixed up.
Right. It's okay. Right. Then just tell me about the living organisms, right? Once we consider the living organisms, yes, there are both unicellular and multicellular organisms, right? Living organisms.
Yeah.
There are both unicellular and multicellular organisms. Yes. Who are those unicellular organisms?
Mm,
Yes. Who are those unicellular organisms? Can you give me certain examples?
unicellular. Mm, bacteria.
Okay.
Fungi.
Yes, when it comes to fungi, actually they are microorganisms, that's true,
Uh,
but they are not unicellular. Not all of them are unicellular. There are unicellular as well as multicellular fungal varieties.
amoeba.
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 Yes, right. Bacteria. These are certain examples for unicellular organisms. Amoeba. That is a protozoan, right?
Yeah.
Amoeba. Then
Algae.
yes, once again, when it comes to algae, all of them are not unicellular. There are multicellular varieties as well. So, most of the algal varieties are visible to our naked eyes, right?
Yeah.
If we take the algal variety Chlamydomonas, right? That is a unicellular organism, Chlamydomonas. Then if we take Euglena, which is a protozoan, it is unicellular, right? Who else?
Yeast.
Yeast, or what we call as Saccharomyces, yeast, yeast or Saccharomyces.
Paramecium.
Paramecium, once again a protozoan.
Yeah.
Paramecium, a protozoan. Right. These are some of the examples for unicellular organisms. And you know, there are so many multicellular organisms, including us, right? Multicellular organisms. So once we say multicellular, we can put plants and animals under them, right? Plants and animals. So what are the two main categories to which we can divide the plants? Yes.
Plants. What was it?
Yes. Some plants produce flowers, some do not.
Yeah. Vascular.
Vascular plants, right? So basically we can divide them as flowering plants and
Yeah.
non-flowering plants, right? Plants can be divided as flowering plants and non-flowering plants. Flowering and non-flowering. Okay. Then these can be further divided, non-flowering seedless plants, seed plants, right? Then the flowering plants can further be divided into two categories. Manad, flowering plants can be divided into two categories. Yes. What are the two categories? Based on the number of cotyledons inside the seed?
Monocots.
Monocots and? Yes, monocots and dicots. Monocots and dicots, Harry. Monocots and dicots. Right, okay. Then what about animals? Animals can be divided.
Vertebrates.
Yes, very good.
Vertebrates.
Vertebrates and invertebrates based on the presence. Since I don't have space, I write it here. Vertebrates and invertebrates, right? Invertebrates. So I just classified living organisms based on different criteria, right? Depending on the number of cells, I have divided them as unicellular and multicellular. Then multicellular ones, they have been divided as plants and animals. Plants, based on the criterion whether they produce flowers or not, flowering plants and non-flowering plants. Then the flowering plants are divided into two categories based on the number of seed leaves present inside the seed, monocots and dicots. Then the animals based on the criterion whether they have a backbone or a vertebral column or not. Vertebrates and invertebrates, right? Okay, that's it. Hari. Then shall we discuss about the photosynthetic process?
Yes.
Right. So what do you know about photosynthesis? Yes, what do you know about photosynthesis?
Mm,
Yes.
mm, uh, mm,
Yes.
photosynthesis is the process by which green
Yes,
uh,
green plants.
plants, algae, and some bacteria make their own food.
Yes, actually the bacteria do not photosynthesize. The green plants and algae, correct. Right,
Mm.
okay. They produce their own food by using this particular process, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what are the factors needed for this photosynthetic process?
Sunlight, carbon dioxide,
Right.
water,
Sunlight or light energy.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned about carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide.
water,
Yes, from the roots they obtain. The roots absorb water.
oxygen.
Roots, no, oxygen is not needed for photosynthesis. Oxygen is given out during photosynthesis,
Ah,
right?
yeah.
There is one more factor needed.
Mm, sorry?
No.
No.
You told that green plants. Why have they become green?
Uh,
Yes, why have they become green?
mm,
Yes.
chlorophyll too?
Sorry?
Chlorophyll too?
There is a pigment known as chlorophyll. There is a pigment known as chlorophyll. That chlorophyll is very important to absorb the energy of light. Right? So light energy is absorbed by this pigment chlorophyll. Right? If we write a word equation for photosynthesis, you can say like this: carbon dioxide, and water are the main raw materials needed, right? Raw materials. Then they need light energy, and also chlorophyll. Chlorophyll can absorb the energy of light. Then as a result, what are the main products of photosynthesis?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. Oxygen is the byproduct of photosynthesis. Byproduct.
Mm,
What is the main product?
uh,
That
mm,
is?
main product.
Yes.
Glucose.
Glucose. Glucose is the main product of photosynthesis. Right? Glucose is the main product, and oxygen is the byproduct of photosynthetic process, right? Okay. Harry. So then what happens to this glucose produced? This glucose. Then if we mention about how do they obtain these factors, now you learned that sunlight is absorbed by the pigment chlorophyll, right? Light energy is absorbed. Then how do they obtain carbon dioxide? Yes. Carbon dioxide enters into the plant leaf through
through the
yes, something begins with S.
stomata.
Stomata. Yes, carbon dioxide enters into the leaf through stomata. Then water is absorbed by the root hairs, and then through the, what is the tissue through which water gets transported?
Oh, excellent.
Sorry?
Oh,
Yes, water gets transported through a tissue known as,
excellent.
that is known as xylem. Xylem tissue, right? Xylem. Okay. Water
Yeah.
gets transported through the tissue, xylem. Then the glucose that is synthesized during photosynthesis that gets temporarily stored inside the leaves in the form of starch, right? But it should not be stored in the leaves. It should be transported to the other parts of the plant, right? So there what happens is that starch which was stored get converted into a solution of sucrose. Then that sucrose solution gets translocated through a tissue known as, yes, what is it? What is the tissue through which food gets translocated? Yes. I have put the first two letters. That is phloem tissue, right? So the food gets translocated through the phloem tissue in the form of a sucrose solution, right? It gets translocated and it will be stored in the fruits, sometimes maybe in the stem, sometimes in the roots, that can be stored once again in the form of starch. On a glucose is synthesized, that is temporarily stored in the leaves in the form of starch, and it gets converted into a sucrose solution and translocated to the other parts of the plant. Then once again, they are stored in the form of starch. So starch is the stored carbohydrate in plants, right? Okay. This is about photosynthesis. If you want, you can just note down the things and I can share a video related to photosynthesis as well. For today, you can just write like this topic wise. So next time we will have an orderly lesson.
Okay.
right? If you have finished writing, you can just share.
Done, teacher.
Explores the world of science.
Photosynthesis. All living things must eat. They must eat food to live. Plants are living things. How do you think a plant eats? Can I feed a plant like this? I don't think a plant could eat like that. People and other animals must eat food. Birds must eat food. Reptiles gotta have food. And fish also must eat. Eat something. And plants. Plants are living things and must have food. How do people eat food? I think most people eat food through their mouth. How do you think a plant eats food? Through its mouth? Maybe, if the plant's a Venus flytrap. If the plant is not a Venus flytrap, then it gets its food through a process called photosynthesis. That's a big word. Say it with me. Photo, syn, the, cis. Say it with me a little faster. Photo, synthesis. Now say it faster and all together. Photosynthesis. Excellent! I knew you could say it. Photosynthesis is the process that enables green plants, algae, and some bacteria to make their own food. Wait, hold the phone. Did I say make their own food? Yes, I meant what I said. Trees, plants, shrubs, grass, algae. Ew, what's algae? These organisms make their own food, and the way they do it is amazing, and it's called photosynthesis. People cannot magically make their own food, right? It takes shopping and time and preparation. It takes work. I'm hungry just thinking about it. But watch how plants do it. The word photosynthesis comes from two words, photo, which means light, and synthesis, which means to make. Plants use light to manufacture their food, which gives the plant energy. What's the best source of light? Yup, you're right. It's the sun. Let's explore the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis occurs in the leaves of trees and plants, in microscopic structures of the leaves called chloroplasts, which contain chemical molecules of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the element that gives leaves its green color. 3 elements are required for a plant to perform photosynthesis. Number 1, carbon dioxide is required. Carbon dioxide is a gas in the air. All animals expel carbon dioxide when they breathe out. Plants like that. Plants need carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is absorbed into the leaves of the plant. Number 2, plants need water. All living things need water. You need water just like plants. The water in the soil is absorbed into the roots of the plant and travels up into the leaves of the plant. What do you think number 3 is? What is the third thing that plants need? We mentioned it before. Remember what photo means in photosynthesis? If you said light, you would be right. Light energy is absorbed into the leaves of the plant. And what is the best source of light? You got it, the sun. Some plants can be grown indoors. They still need light energy. It takes a special lamp to produce the right kind of light that plants need to perform photosynthesis. Now that you know the 3 things necessary, let's see how they all work together. Water, in the form of moisture, reaches the leaves of trees and plants through the root system. Carbon dioxide is also being absorbed into the leaves and into the chloroplasts. Light energy falls upon the leaves and is absorbed by the chlorophyll. And when all the ingredients come together, bam! The chemical reaction known as photosynthesis has just occurred, and the plant has made its own food. Food in the form of glucose, which is a type of sugar. Plants and trees use these sugars to grow and make flowers and fruit and vegetables, the things we need to live. Another byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen. Plants give off oxygen during photosynthesis, and we need to breathe oxygen. Look how neat this is. We, people and animals, breathe out carbon dioxide, which plants need to grow, and plants give off oxygen, which we need to grow. What a beautiful relationship. All living things on Earth rely on plants and trees and grasses of all kinds, all over the world. We rely on the process of photosynthesis so they can be healthy and continue to grow. Let's protect our forests. Thanks for following Clarendon Learning. Be sure to subscribe.
Okay. Then actually we can talk about the organizational levels of living organisms. Have you taken down this about photosynthesis? Shall I clear the things? Okay. Right. So, can you tell me what are the organizational levels of living organisms? Yes. Organizational levels. Yes, what are they? Yes. Now, you mentioned that the matter is made out of atoms. Likewise, if we think of the living organisms, they are made of what?
Cell.
Cells, yes. The basic building unit of living things is the cell. This is known as the basic structural as well as functional unit of life. Structural and functional unit of life. So, number of cells get together in order to form
Tissue.
tissues, right? Then a collection of tissues,
Organ.
organ, right? Then number of organs get together in order to form.
Organ system.
Okay, you can remember that part well, no? Organ systems. Then number of such organ systems get together to form a complete
Organism.
organism. So if we think of the human being as an organism, what are the organ systems available? Yes. What are the organ systems available?
Respiratory system.
Respiratory system, right?
Nerve system.
Nervous system,
Circulatory system.
circulatory system,
Digestive system.
digestive system,
Muscular system.
muscular system or the skeletal system.
Mm.
There are two different things.
Reproductive system.
Reproductive system. Okay, there are a number of organ systems there. So if we take nervous system, what are the organs available in it? Yes.
Brain.
Brain.
Mm.
And there is the spinal
Cord.
spinal cord, right? Brain and the spinal cord. So what are the tissues that have contributed for the formation of these? The brain and spinal cord basically consist of yes, we can just feel the things. We become sensitive to the environment because of the cell, because of this tissue. What is it? That is the nervous tissue, right? Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue. Then the nervous tissue is made out of what type of cells? Yes, nerves or neurons, nerve cells or the neurons, right? We call them as nerve cells, and most probably we use the term neuron, right?
Yeah.
So if we take the blood circulatory system as the organ system, what are the organs available in it? Circulatory system.
Heart.
Heart. Okay.
Blood vessel.
Yes, good. There are the heart and blood vessels are there. So, what are the tissues available in the heart?
Veins.
No, tissues means
Ah.
so the term cardiology, cardiologist, then cardiac muscles. The term cardiac is associated with the heart, right? So the tissues which form the heart are known as cardiac muscle tissues. Muscle tissues. So this cardiac muscle tissue is made out of cardiac muscle cells. Cardiac muscle cells, right? Okay. Then finally, if I ask about the digestive system, what are the organs available in it?
Mouth.
Hari, first of all, yes, organs. Hari, okay.
Stomach.
Stomach, right.
Liver.
Liver.
Gallbladder.
Gallbladder. There is the pancreas is there. Right. Then the small intestine, large intestine, all these are located as the organs. So what are the tissues? Do you know? There are different types of tissues, right? The muscle tissues are there, right? Then the cells are the muscle cells. Then there are different type of epithelial tissues which make the linings of these organs. For example, you know about the stomach. The gastric juice is secreted by the inner lining of the stomach, right? Epithelial tissue. So the epithelial tissue consists of epithelial cells, right? Epithelial cells, right? So that is the organizational levels of living organisms, right? Organizational levels. Now, though it is not directly connected to chemistry, but when we are talking about living organisms, there are certain biological molecules which have contributed for the formation of living bodies. What are they? Can you name some biological molecules? Yes.
Carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates.
Protein.
Proteins. Proteins are there, right? Then there are 4 major biomolecules. Lipids. And then the nucleic acids. Right? These are the 4 major biomolecules which have contributed for the formation of living bodies. Right? Then there are certain elements which have contributed for the formation of these. Right? So we consider carbohydrates. The main elements present there are carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Right?
Yeah.
In the case of proteins, they have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sometimes they contain sulfur as well. Sulfur. In some of the proteins, we find sulfur as an element. Then in the case of lipids, once again, they contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So when it comes to the nucleic acids, you may have heard about two main types of nucleic acids, DNA and RNA, right? DNA and RNA. So DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. RNA stands for ribonucleic acid, right? Then these nucleic acids, the main elements that have contributed for the formation of the CHON, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and they also contain phosphorus, right? Phosphorus are there, right? So these have contributed for the formation of living bodies, and they have made certain structural components, and they have certain functions as well. For example, glucose is a type of carbohydrate. It undergoes oxidation. Then we call it as cellular respiration. That is the process by which we obtain energy. We obtain energy by means of cellular respiration. Then proteins are there to synthesize certain structures in living bodies, as well as the enzymes are also types of proteins, right? Enzymes, all enzymes are proteins. So what's the importance of enzymes? They are also known as biochemical catalysts. Now our digestive process is speeded up with the action of enzymes. Now in the laboratory, when we are doing an experiment, in order to speed it up, we can just heat, or we can add a catalyst, right? But in the case of the living bodies, we can't do both of these. No? So enzymes act as biological catalysts, right? They speed up the reactions. Digestion is a chemical reaction, right? It is not a single reaction. It is a series of chemical reactions, right? Then when it comes to lipids, in order to tolerate cold weather, now you have heard about homeothermic and poikilothermic animals, warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals. For the warm-blooded animals, in order to tolerate cold weather, some of them have a hypodermal fat layer. Fat is being deposited just below the dermis. Hypodermal fat layer is there. So they can tolerate the cold weather because of that. So and they make certain structural components as well. And this is also a main source of energy, right? Lipids also undergo oxidation and produce a considerable amount of energy in living bodies. Then the nucleic acids, what is the importance? Now you have obtained the certain characteristics from your parents, right? So the hereditary characteristics are transformed from one generation to the next, transferred from one generation to the next because of these nucleic acids, DNA and RNA, right? So there are so many importances of these biological molecules. Hari. So did you get something important today?
Yeah.
Joined a bit late, so you can just go through the recording once I upload it. Did you get something new? New means actually you have forgotten the things.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we will continue from next week, starting from a lesson. You want me to do the biology part? No? So I will do the biology lessons from next week onwards. Today I just went through certain topics, just summarize the facts about these. Right. Okay. Then see you on next week. Stay safe and have a nice week.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you, teacher.